Stand by for action.
Thanks for joining me. My name is Dave Milner. I am the Unpleasant Blind Guy, and I want to welcome you to part 3 of this episode of the Unpleasant Blind Guy. Now remember, if you want to contact me with comments, questions, show suggestions, Awesome American suggestions, I'm available at UBG Contact on Twitter, or I can also be found as Dave Milner or Aggedor, that's Aggedor, on Mumblet, the Tea Party Community, Spreely, Minds, MeWe, or Gab. Now let's begin. Kaiser, Now, are we talking about an entire couch in one piece like the monstrosity I have in my living room, or are we talking about, a sectional couch? Because you know what they say about sectional sofas. They're actually called sexual sofas. So you can get an occasional piece.
Yeah, it's like a love seat. Yeah, exactly. It was a nice couch, but our 3-year-old son, who's now in the Marine Corps and doing well for himself, and is in his 20s, but at 2, 3, 4, he would always hold on to those fake ornate pieces and bounce on the couch. So you started getting messed up parts of the couch, until it finally, one of my dogs, I guess, Max left his scent there or something from a diaper. I don't know. We got another dog, and this dog decided to burrow into it.
Oh, yes.
In a couple spots while the wife and I were both at work. And so there I am merrily rolling parts of that couch down to get picked up by the trash collectors. This is a for real story. Everybody's looking at me like, what the hell? Well, it's half circle or quarter circle, when you broke it down from the two pieces. And but I did have to roll it. The thing was heavy as hell. I mean, I'm shocked. If it wasn't for the dog, that thing would probably still be here. Mm-hmm. So we had like 4 other incarnations of couches. There was a striped couch with different colors. Anyway, so the in-laws decided to get rid of their couch they got. And my wife says, well, we haven't had a couch for a couple years. And so we inherited this one. They're still alive. But so we drop it in here, and it's held up in good stead, and the dogs haven't screwed it up. And it looks good. And it's burnt orange. So that's how the 2 incarnations of the big orange couch came about. Now, the actual phraseology of that, there was an old advertisement for, I think it was a chain of them across the U.S. They were called the Elephant Bar. Mm-hmm. And the Elephant Bar was in the 80s. It played a lot of new wave music and cool stuff. I used to punk music, stuff I listened to when I was
there you go.
young.
There you go.
Yeah.
Depeche Mode.
Yep. Depeche Mode, exactly. And also, I think the last time I was there, they were playing a major mix of, what's that guy? He sang the Bourne song. I can't think of his name now. Shoot.
Bourne song.
Yeah, Jason Bourne song, the first Jason Bourne. Moby.
Okay, go ahead. Yeah, okay, got it.
So the last incarnation was, that was the last time I ever went to that place. Anyways, but it wasn't Jason Bourne song, but it was Moby when he first got out there. And anyways, their commercial was, come in and take a seat on the big orange couch at the Elephant Bar. And they had like an inflatable big ass orange couch. So there you go. That's the chronology and how that theater of the mind, folks, in radio, but sometimes that theater is based in fact.
Well, when you listen to these podcasts, just as when people used to listen to radio, you have to have that theater of the mind. You have to imagine certain things. And my God, I definitely feel your pain. My couch, I've got this giant green couch in my living room that my stepson or would-be stepson inherited, and they had to take out a window to get this bloody thing in here. And at this point, there's no way I can get it out. I'm going to have to bring a chainsaw in and just saw this thing in half if I ever want to get rid of it, because it literally can't come out the door. It's almost like getting socialism in your country. You really can't get it out unless there's a whole lot of pain involved. You know what I mean?
Oh, yeah. Now, I will give you one suggestion, my brother. Don't use a chainsaw. Too much wood chips.
Wood chips, yeah.
Yeah, get yourself a Sawzall and cut that son of a bitch right down the middle and also up the back and the front. Look, I had to actually do that with the big orange couch, so the first incarnation of it. So, yeah, like I said, that was some work getting out, and I was the only one doing it. The wife was covering up the bore holes for a week or two. She was like, oh, we'll just cover them up, and putting our Mexican blankets on from when we went on our honeymoon down to Cancun. And
sure.
So she's throwing these over them. And I'm like, this shit's going out. And we lived without a couch for a little bit, but then I can't remember what happened, but somebody died and we got another couch. That was the striped couch. So, yeah, I don't really care what kind of couch. I don't even care if we have one, but, I've got my lazy boy, and I've got nice.
Oh, there you go, yeah.
Yeah. I like to pretend I'm sitting on my lazy boy now, but I'm actually on a rolling chair that squeaks. I'm sure everybody on the audio files are like, Jesus Christ, every time he rocks in the son of a bitch, we hear it creak. So, probably sounds like I'm farting. But,
oh, yeah, well.
That's what they'll say.
It's the same with me in this area, with this chair I've got, and it is a good one, or at least it was when I first got it. But now it's begun to degrade, and it makes noises and everything. But it does have good back support, which in this business, people, you listen to this, we'll be in these chairs for hours. Whether it's just doing the shows or in both of our cases, editing the shows, which for me, editing the shows can take a lot longer. Like I said, I stayed in this chair yesterday from about 3 p.m. Right up until about 11.
Wow.
So you've got to have a comfortable chair. If anybody out there is thinking about doing their own podcast, one of the first things you do, get a microphone? No. Get a mixer? No. Get a comfortable chair. Get something that you can that you're going to be comfortable spending half a day in, because that's where you're going to be.
And get yourself a good desk. For years.
Oh yeah.
I still have to put the desk I have now, but for years I was off of what do you call it? One of them folding desk.
Right.
It just folds like you would use camping, and that's why I bought it, was for camping. But once I decided to podcast, well, I guess it's going on 2 years now, so yeah. So until about, I don't know, I got back from Germany, I found this beautiful desk. I love it. And I put it in here, but I still had to put 2 bricks under it, on the front and the back, just to get it up to the proper height. And that's really what happened, brother.
Well, I got to tell you, man, if I had the money, I would have this transferred up here, because right now the desk I've got is just kind of a decorative thing. But I've got down in Texas in storage something that a friend of mine picked up for me at a university auction, the UT, University of Texas Austin auction. It is a circa 1950s, almost standard issue military desk. It's got the little slides out the side there on the top for the typewriters.
Oh yeah,
on both sides.
I remember them. Ah.
It's got the file drawer. It's got the other 2 drawers. The thing's made out of steel.
Yep.
It weighs about 8,000 pounds. But man, what a desk!
And
I really wish I could have that.
And gray in color or green. They come in
green.
2 colors. Yeah, green or gray.
Yep. Mine was the green. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Yep.
Great.
I still have my IBM Selectric. Believe this or not, most of the stuff I bang out when I've written articles or whatever, I still use my IBM.
Oh yeah.
Yeah,
Well,
I'm working on my book, and I'm trying to do everything by word now because I guess it's easier. But it's funny as fuck every time. Uh, uh, it just there's something about the smell of the ribbon, the smell of the paper, that tactile feel. When I was here's something that'll blow you away about the youth. This last time, and it was the last time, when I was in Afghanistan this last time last year. Um, the interesting part to me was I send letters out. And they're like, why are you always, when we go to the DFAC, why are you always stopping over at that letter box and sending out letters?
hmm
I'm like, because, I'm sending out letters to people, I write to. And they're like, well, why don't you just use email? I said, I can do that if I want, but there's something about the tactile feel, the writing process, and you knowing this is your handwriting, going to these people you actually give a fuck about, and putting down your thoughts instead
it's
of the cheap plastic banana. Even a Selectric. I don't think I've ever written a letter to somebody that wasn't handwritten.
mhm.
An actual letter. I don't think I've ever typed one out.
Well, I've again, this is a skill that they taught us at one of the schools that I went to. For blind kids. So I learned how to touch type by the time I was 10 years old. And I learned on these large format Underwood typewriters. Now, I'm not saying that these were regular sized typewriters that had, some kind of printer on the back that printed things large. No, the keyboard was the same size. Okay, but the hammers and everything else, all the other guts and works were in large format. We're
Okay.
talking about large type here.
Right.
Okay, and by the end of a lesson, by the end of an hour lesson every day, my hands would just ache. But I got to where I could type really, really well. It probably by the time I got out of the fourth grade, I could probably pass any secretarial school's typing test. In fact, this comes to a story. When I went to high school, they told me, well, you got to take an elective. I'm like, no, I don't take an elective. So I said, okay, fine, typing. All right, I'll take that. I know I'll ace that. And it was the one time that a teacher ever went to my counselor and said, okay, get this kid out of my class. He doesn't need it.
Here's one for you. You'll love this. When I was going through, typing my stuff for college and whatnot, who cares about that? I find it funny. Uh, they had just started introducing computers. I had to actually take CPT courses. Now, I was playing around with computers back when Realistic had their Radio Shack had their I think it was a 2600 Radio Shack
Uh,
2600.
Not you mean the TI 100?
Yeah, TI 100. Well, no,
Right.
I think it was a later incarnation. I think it was like 2600 or something.
Did it have the LCD screen? That'll be the key. Did it have the
It had
LCD
a
screen?
TV. It had a TV monitor.
Oh, okay. Then it might have been a later number. But go ahead.
Okay. It had a TV, not a TV, but it looked like the old. Remember how the old
Green
TVs
screen.
had the? Yes, yes.
Hmm.
And
Yeah.
it was still we were still using that first incarnation of dark green and light green on the
Hmm.
screen. It was called. Oh hell, what the hell was that shit called? Anyway, this is in junior high, so this is
Right.
early '80s.
Oh, sure.
And anyway, so we went through that incarnation. Then they added color to it, and that was called
That was the Coco, the color computer. I had one.
yeah. And then I got in '86. I'll never forget how much it cost.
Mhm.
I bought a Macintosh, the first Mac with a mouse, and it came with a carry case. I've talked about it on one of my shows before. It was a
Ah.
brown carry case with like a rainbow on it, and it was a one-piece unit. And I had to buy an extra floppy disk when discs were actually still floppy, the old 8-inch or 6-inch disc.
Yep, 8-inch disc. Yeah.
Yeah. And but before that, now with the realistic that we used at school, you actually used a cassette tape.
Mm-hmm. Oh, no. Yeah.
Yeah, and anyways, that was interesting during those times. And one thing I'll tell you about the government, guess what? They still use that original green screen as their base. And then you can do the little color screen when they started adding color. And you can take your Word document, your pictures and whatnot, and then you just take the picture, you put it over there in your different F keys. And so that's really where we went with that. But I honestly was clueless about computers by the time I really had to know them. And I got real good at typing with my right hand only. And
Right.
the reason why was if you look at police cars or any cars that deal with stuff,
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
it has a computer. Well, I still have a computer just like the one I had, but it's not the same one. I actually bought this. It cost $6,000 when I bought it, and it was one of those tough books by Panasonic.
Right.
And like I said, my computer guy's aces. He's kept this damn thing alive for this many years, and it still works. But you would have to input the information, for whatever you just did, and it was sitting in your car, and I had different little mounts, and then I got away from mounts, tucked it under the seat, and I had a car plug-in. I still have the car plug-in and shit like that, and then I would just be able to type it, and then upload it when I get back. But yeah, I still find myself relying one-handedly with my right hand. I'm right-handed too, so the only thing I can do is smoke when I type. But I'm faster typing one-handed than I am with two.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. Well, my first one, this gives you an idea of my background. Obviously, I've said this to you before. I started in December of 1991
Wow.
on the internet. Okay.
Okay.
That's when I started on the internet using a Morrow MD3 CPM computer and one of the green screen monitors. Using a let's see, I think it was an ADM2 or ADM12 dumb terminal to hook up to the MD3. But my first computer, in those, by the way, used 5 1/4-inch floppy disks. So it was that far advanced at that point in 1991. But my very first computer was a Timex Sinclair 1000. It was this little one-piece unit. You guys can look this up if you want. This little one-piece unit that had this bubble keyboard, and yes, it did use a TV as its monitor, and yes, it did have cassette memory. If you wanted to save anything, you had to save it to cassette. And of course, it had that audio interface so that it could bring it back. You could load a program using cassettes.
Were you still using? That was the program I forgot. DOS. That was the initial program was DOS, and then the color one was something else. I can't remember.
Well, as far as Radio Shack goes, yeah, they had, it was. I'm not even sure that those early ones used DOS, but I think it used they might have used a permutation of it. I can remember, the first actual PC I got was an IBM AT, and yes, it did use DOS, and I got very good at DOS. I wound up. I really went to Windows reluctantly because at that point I had I was using 4DOS and I had Norton Utilities. I was using the thing like a boss. And when I'd play computer games, I would play these games that would just that had the interface that would just take over the entire system and use all the system's memory to play those things like Duke Nukem 3D and everything like that.
Yeah, DOS, I remember one thing that I did love about it was the functionality with the F keys.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, you could flip screens, you could do everything you needed to do, and that's why the government honestly kept that. And it is the most secure form for the intranet, not the internet. The government has something that, is
Sure.
secured, and it's the intranet. So, well, secure as it can be, because remember, I have like 4 different letters from just about everywhere under Obama. The Chinese had access to everybody's information, and it was like 45 million people, and they were looking for family lines. That's important, and I'll tell you why another time, maybe, or maybe we'll get into it today.
To some more than spies, I'm guessing. But
Oh,
yeah,
yeah. That's exactly why. And anybody who's worked in the government knows you have to change your password at a minimum every 90 days, and usually they're trying to sweat you to do it more often than that, like 45 days or whatever, 30 days. And so anyways, the point is, for them to have had that for 2 years meant somebody on the inside was giving them access. And that's probably when you think about what I used to call, now it's called the deep state, but back in the day we called it the shadow government.
Yep, I still do.
Yep, me too. And the shadow government, somebody gave them access. And I guess I'll jump into why they want that information, because usually families who serve in the military or in the government had other family members serve in it, and it's predictive programming. Just like with everything else, they're like, okay, so your son or your daughter will go in the military. There's a heavy evolution of that. And the reason why they took that information is just data mining and predictive programming, and that's it. And that's all I had to say on that.
Oh, yeah. Well, yeah, that's true. That's absolutely true. And yeah, it goes again right back to China, who is trying to be a great nation on its own. And again, if we don't watch ourselves, they very well could be the 21st century could well belong to them. Yeah.
Everybody forgets the famous photo of when he went over to meet with Chavez, Obama. Remember the New American Century book that he had under his arm? Or did you ever hear about that picture or see it?
I don't think I ever heard about that picture. I heard reference to it, but I don't believe I ever saw it.
Okay. Well, that picture, it was blown up to show it. Now, the New American Century, when you actually read the book, most people don't read books because, that tactile feel. They're young. They want to see other things.
Right.
That book is about the New American Century, but guess what? It doesn't include us. It's the New American Century from south of the border. That's why it's called a New American Century. And it's muff fake. That's what this bullshit with the Frankfurt School and all that shit, Columbia and the media, that's how you do it. You just rename it, rebrand it, and call it something else, and guess what? There you go, baby.
Well, yeah, everything that's old is new again, but sadly you have people who don't pay attention to history and really don't know about what has gone before, and that's why we keep making the same mistakes. That's why you heard me talking to Jeff Mitchell when I heard this news about us pulling out of Syria. That's why my mind went to Vietnam. But the problem is that someone that might be a third my age, somebody 20 years old, they have no experience with that, so that wouldn't occur to them immediately. They go somewhere else because they don't have that experiential background, but they don't even have they barely have the historical background because, well, for one thing, very likely if they learned anything about Vietnam in school, it was probably the wrong thing. I learned about Vietnam from guys who'd been there, and that's a big difference. Yeah.
No, I agree. I remember back in the day, told a little lie to my mother when I was doing Boy Scouts and told her, oh, there's this great school I want to go to, and I got to go to it. I think it was like $600, which was a lot of money back then. She signed a little permission slip. There was a school, it was called a Recondo school, and this is, I don't know how old I was, 16. It was before I went in the military, I know that. And this dude who ran it, his name was Frank Camper. And it was a cool school. You know, he was shocked that I lied about my age and shit like that. He didn't ask for no ID or nothing. But I remember this. It was hilarious. I went through the school. I still got the books. The one I wrote in, and I bought a second one to keep. And I still have that one that I wanted to keep. And basically it was a school to, you know, teach you how to be a soldier or whatever you want to call it. I don't know. People call it lots of things. But then later on, while I was in the military, I get a visit by CID because my name came up on a list going to that school, which is fact. And they're like, "Why'd you go to it?" And I was like, "I was in Boy Scouts." Well, you remember when Gaddafi, they said that these terrorists were coming in to train to do some problems for our president? They went through that school. Guy's name was Frank Camper. So you can find the book online, I'm sure. Maybe they don't sell it, I don't know, but who knows? Maybe you can find it. And it was called Recondo, Live to Spend It. That was his little guidebook for the school.
Well, yeah, there you go, and that's just something for UBG listeners. Another reference for you guys if you want to go and do that. Yeah. So yeah.
Well, that school doesn't exist, and Frank Camper turned out he didn't do no time. He got convicted of something, but did no time because he was a CIA agent.
Right.
And that whole entire school was set up by the CIA in the U.S. So when people say by law you can't go through a school, or you can't do the CIA can't operate in the U.S., I'm here to tell you that's bullshit. They do it all the time. And just reasons I know this, but it's pretty fucked up. And when you hear about the IC and all the shit they're pulling right now, this is old hat. This is gamesmanship. Anyways, let's get off that subject because I touched lightly on it. I don't want to go too deep. And you know I'll go down that fucking rabbit hole, and I don't need to.
Well, I hear you, man. I hear you. You know, it is something that people need to know about. They need to understand. People say, "Well, it's all conspiracy theory stuff." Yeah, that really worked until government agencies actually began admitting that they perpetrated some of these conspiracies that they did happen. You know, the most glaring of which was the one where the IRS went after the Tea Party movement, and they kept saying, "Oh no, we're not doing that. It's ridiculous. It's conspiracy theory nonsense." And then once the Obama administration was over, they rather quietly came out and said, "Yeah, we were doing that."
And
we
notice Lois Lerner, that cunt, she's still free.
Still free. That was the point I was going to make.
Oh yeah.
That was. Yeah, that was the point I was going to make. To quote someone else, guilty as hell and free as a bird.
Fucking yeah. All I got to say, man, is Trump's doing the best he can at unwinding this shit, and there's a lot of people on both sides of the aisle. Mm-hmm. Good, bad, come shit or bleed, indifferent. Mm-hmm. I've talked about it before on my shows. I can talk about it now. There was an internal civil war within the IC, cold and hot. Now it's cold again. Mm-hmm. And competitive, I guess is the best way to put it. But like I said, it did get hot for a minute. But the point is, when you have this shit going on, there's a reason why the guy who signed the ability for not the military intelligence, but for us to have a civilian intelligence agency, i.e. the CIA.
Right.
When you had him, I believe it was Eisenhower, come out and say, "I wish I never would have formed that organization." Right. You might want to think about that.
Eisenhower was a very thoughtful president.
Yep.
And, there was that. And he also, now this is one of the things that I find interesting, because the left always goes to his speech about the military-industrial complex. But what they won't admit was that included academia. He didn't say it in that speech, but it did. The left will never bring that up.
Well,
But
where's
he
the head
meant
of
them too.
where's the head of DARPA? It's in Massachusetts because most of it's from MIT, Massachusetts Institute of Technology. The fact remains, it's inane, it's bullshit, but whatever. I'm the foremost expert on my own opinion, but my opinion has proven to be right numerous times. But what I will tell you is you're exactly right. Academia is included. The military complex is also, and this is what the left will never say either, how'd we get to the moon? Who was von Braun? Who was DeBus? Who was Kurt Debus? What about the Kecksville incident and the Bell? These little conspiracy theories, but they're facts. They happened. There's witnesses. The oral traditions of different things. I live 45 minutes from Wright Pat, where the Bell is encased. It's actually encased somewhere. That's fact. Because there's numerous truck drivers that made reports. But, that's kooky bullshit. But then all of a sudden now you have the Navy saying, yeah, there are things coming in that we have no idea why. And they even released the gun footage. And Joe Rogan interviewed one of the pilots. And think about it. Everything's not Bob Lazar. A lot of this stuff is man-made. The Skunk Works exist for a reason.
Oh, definitely.
Area 51 exists for a reason. And if we ain't doing that, then we're fucking up as a nation, because we better have the best shit, because we no longer have the big manpower. We've raised a bunch of buttercups that probably wouldn't take up a gun if they were forced to. And, their feelings might get hurt by the recoil. It might be too loud for their little earsies. That's the whole point of this. In the military-industrial complex, there's your industrial complex, NASA. It was founded by Nazis. Cut point and blank.
Yeah, something occurs to me, talking about Eisenhower. Do you think that, at least obliquely, in that speech, or at least at the time, because remember when I was talking about the fact that we haven't made proper war in 75 years, you have to remember who he was and what he did in World War II. I have a feeling that he regretted. He was handed this poop on a plate from the Truman administration. But I have a feeling that he regretted it, that it had become that way, but that even he didn't have the power to turn it back to the way it should be. That's just a feeling I have. It may be complete BS, but that's a feeling I have.
No, from his accounts, I would say you're spot on. From his accounts, he felt a serious problem with the way things went on. And remember, generals are politicians. They are. They actually have a school at Fort Leavenworth, Kansas, and it's the Generals the War College, which we were talking about earlier when I was talking about the white papers by intellectuals like Condi Rice. And dude, when I read that paper, it said Condoleezza Rice. I didn't know it was a woman. I'm like, Jesus Christ! I remember being a young troop in the Army, reading these things because they would have them in the fucking day room, all the military propaganda, the military police journal, all these things. And I used to just read them, on my off time. And it was pretty fascinating, actually. The way I talk with my mentors, I'm like, it's amazing what you anyways, it is what it is. But the point is I find it hilarious that now the military, we used to have something when I left the Army and went to the Marine Corps, I found it really funny that now everything's this AKO, the Army Knowledge Office or whatever the hell AKO means. You have to take all these online things, but there's ways to do it real quick, and you don't really learn anything, but you have to do it. You have to punch that fucking card. And, have that, even as contractors. There are certain things we have to take on that bullshit. Well, here's the point. Back in the day, we actually read the material and knew it. And for some reason, it changed. And I think that is the problem with technology also. I'm not averse to technology. Please don't get me wrong, folks. I think it's a good thing and it can be used for good. But I'm not seeing a lot of good being used with it. And your thoughts on that there, Dave?
Well, I don't go quite as far as our friend BZ does. I don't think that Grace Hopper should have been disappeared or anything like that. Admiral Grace Hopper now. I don't think that should have happened, but technology, like anything else, is a tool, and it's a tool that is extremely powerful, and it's been misused horribly at this point. And the only way that I can see that you can ride herd on this and make sure that it doesn't do harm to the people is to have elected officials looking at this stuff. Elected officials who are accountable to the people. One of the main problems.
Right. That's the key. Accountable and honest.
Exactly.
But Mr. Smith has not gone to Washington in a long time, unless you want to consider, thank God he's from my state, Jim Jordan. Jim Jordan. Well, he's the Mr. Smith of our era.
Well, even another guy from your state, even James Trafficant, who sadly kind of fell down there at the end.
Hell yeah, I love James.
He was a good. Yeah, he was a good guy. He always supported us, with the NFB. When we would do what we would call Washington seminars, we'd go up to D.C. and lobby, for whatever we wanted, and we'd hit both parties. I did that 3 or 4 times in the late '80s and early '90s. James Trafficant, when our guys from our Ohio affiliate would go in there, he would say, "Hey, how you doing? Great to see you. What do you need? You got it. I'll co-sponsor it." That was James Trafficant right there.
People forget about James Trafficant. I'll tell you 2 things that I do know about that man. Mm. He would be the one when C-SPAN was the thing that followed Congress, and should have been the only thing that ever followed Congress, not all the other news outlets and stuff and how they
exactly
weaponized it.
Mm-hmm.
But C-SPAN, you got to see how the gravy was made. And consistently under the Clinton administration, James Trafficant, Democrat from a Democratic Party who got reelected consistently, would go on there and rail against Clinton every fucking day. And guess what happened? They framed him up. They put him in prison. He got out. And then, while he's riding in his tractor flipped over on him.
That is a damn shame, man, because now I don't remember exactly what this is, the terminology of this is, what it's called, but it's basically that time at the end of a day in Congress when someone can just stand up and make a speech about things. I want to call it evening orders, but I'm not sure.
That's what it was called. I think that's what it was called, yeah.
Yeah, and James Trafficant used to do that, and his big thing, that I can recall, was on the budget.
Yeah.
And he would just go after irresponsible spending.
Yeah.
That is the type of Mr. Smith that we need in Washington now. Guys like him and Louis Gohmert and to a lesser extent, but still Ted Cruz and people like that. Trey Gowdy. A reason I mentioned Ted Cruz is because everybody hates him. If everybody in D.C. hates him,
you're doing something right.
You're damn right. That's why
I hate that swamp, man.
Oh yeah. Well, that's the point. I got this from listening to Money Talk with Melanie. Melanie Collette, who's on SHR Media. Guys, you got to listen to her program. Comes on at 5 p.m. Eastern, and she's on Facebook Live, and also you can hear her on the SHR Media YouTube page. Check her out. She was doing an interview with a guy who was doing a paper, and he wanted to find out how big the federal government was. And guess what? He couldn't. Nobody knows, guys, listen to this. Nobody knows how big the federal government is. That should send chills up your spine and make you wet your pants. Because if we had elected officials that were responsible, in charge of things like our technology, it would be a lot better. But we don't. There are so many people in the background that are just hirelings or appointees or people like that, and they're not responsible to anyone, and yet they can rule your life. They can put you in prison. Hell, at this point, they can have you disappeared.
Well, I'll tell you this. In 2003, when I went to FLESI the first time, Federal Law Enforcement Training Center, down in Glencoe, Georgia. There's also one down in Artesia, New Mexico. Closest town to Artesia that's a major town for a Walmart, for you folks that might want to go down there and do some training for a CBP. The point is that town is Roswell, New Mexico. Oh, wow. Artesia, New Mexico, Roswell. Think about it. Mm-hmm. Anyway, so the point is, back then they said, there's 95 federal agencies. And you could actually count that out by the IGs. IGs are actually gun carriers. They do have arrest powers if they have a prosecutor in their mix, okay? And an inspector general, every agency has one.
Right.
So we're talking agriculture. I've worked with these folks, okay, the IGs, in different investigations, things that I did back in the day, and as a federal cop. So here's the point that nobody wants to look at. Last time I went through was when I went through Immigration and Customs, and that was, Port of Detroit, whatever. And here's what I found out. At that time, they said, there's 95 to 97 federal agencies. That's a federal law enforcement training center giving you a guess, a swag.
Mm-hmm.
A stupid, wild-ass guess.
Even they didn't know at the time.
They didn't know at the time. And the last time I went through a FLETSI course was down there in 2007.
Mm-hmm.
So, these people that pontificate and think they know everything. That's why I say I'm not an expert on shit. Not an expert on shit, but I know certain things, and I know those two facts remain the same. There's other stuff that I've talked about that I know from different things. But look, what I know I'll talk on. If you were to ask me a blunt-ass question and I know nothing about it, I'll be like, I don't know anything about that. But if I do know something about it, I'll tell you my opinion on it. And I am what? The foremost expert on my opinion only.
Yeah, well, it takes a certain amount of experience, and it takes a certain amount of interest in everything in the world to get to a point where you can do that. And people often ask me, how did I get started in this? And that's because as an 8-year-old kid, I had been hearing about how the gods of my household, the parents, kept on saying, well, I've got to go here and I've got to do this and I've got to do that. Well, they're my parents. They had the authority to whoop my butt and hurt me, which they did. Okay, but this government thing seemed like it was their parents. And then what happens when I'm 8 years old in August of 1968? Bam! Democratic National Convention, that mess that happened. And I'm there watching it on TV. And that's what got me started in all this. At that point, I developed an interest not just in government, but how government affects people. and social trends, because the whole hippie thing was going on at the time and all of that, and how that affects people, and media, how media covers all this. And I knew somehow, even as an 8-year-old kid, that all of this was intertwined, that all of this affected each other. There were reverberation effects back and forth between all these elements. And I began studying that. And I never went to college because I never had the discipline to do it. But I always studied this stuff as a matter of interest. And I haven't stopped.
Well, that's the only way to look at it. I mean, honestly, if you're on the outside looking in, there's always ways. I mean, networking, things like this. I mean, dude, there's people that I speak to that, have certain knowledge factors. I trust them because they haven't been wrong yet. And trust me, open source intelligence. There's a guy, David, he's former CIA guy. David, I talk about him a lot because his thing is sort of, the Marine Corps adopted it. It's open source intelligence. Mm-hmm. Robert David Still. And open source intelligence is the best way to do it. You just infiltrate. You find out what's going on. You got your ear to the ground. You figure your way in. You go into it. You find out the truth about it. If you're asked to. I mean, I would never suggest anybody do anything that they're not asked to do. Remember the scope of work, the SOW, that is what your protection is. And follow your scope of work, and you'll always be fine. And it doesn't matter what happens. It doesn't matter where it happened, what was going on. As long as you're right, you'll be right. If you're wrong, get ready for the handcuffs. And realize this is big boy rules. And this is something I try to tell everybody about big boy rules. If the political winds change, they can still link you with those nickel-plated bracelets and take you to jail. But that's big boy rules. If you're going to play the game, play it, but realize this is the reality of the game.
Oh, yeah.
And it is the best game. I'm not going to lie to you. The adrenaline, everything that you feel, that you're seeing, that you're scoping, that you're knowing, that this, that, and the other, it is awesome to be a player on the map. But also realize it's fine. Who cares? When you get a knock on your door and people want to ask you a question, don't give them 1001. Don't lie. Tell the truth. Because by the time they're knocking on your door, they already know the truth. And 1001 is the punk's ability to screw you. Because you just punked out and told a lie. And also, don't take down any evidence. If you've put stuff out places, the internet doesn't forget. And if you pull it down, that's like disavowing. Never disavow a fucking job you've done. Do the job. Be a man. Man up. And realize big boy rules are in effect at that time. Anyways, I went on a dissertation. Dude, I love talking with you, but you take me down pathways I wish I wouldn't go.
Well, it's great stuff, and it's stuff that I'm sure that my listeners are going to be interested in. And it's been a big ball of fun, man. We have a lot of interest in common, and we were able to tell people a few things as well from each other's perspectives. And it's been a great interview with you. I do appreciate it, and I know that my listeners got something out of it. I just hope your listeners got something out of hearing me. Because. Do we disagree on a few things? Yeah, I guess we do, but we also agree on many other things. And I think one of the main things that we agree on is that the United States of America, this country that we have, the values that this country is based on are ones that are worth preserving and worth fighting for.
Hell yeah.
And I want to thank you.
Hell yeah, my brother.
I just want to thank you. And by the way, just a little note for my listeners, guys. Normally, I bleep out language of certain types, but this time I'm not going to because, hey, this is what's real. Kaiser Shuff is a real guy with some real stuff, with some real good opinions and real background, who I respect a whole lot. And listen, once in a while, you have to put up with the cuss words because what a person says is far more important than how they say it.
I agree. And that's why I throw them out usually for shock effect. And but that's it. It's freedom of speech, and we both are advocates of that. And I try to be funny with it and light, but sometimes the topics get a little tough, and then I have to bounce out because then I'm like I said, you live the game, you play the game, be the game, and always be honest. And also, remember this. For the older people out there, and I'm an older person, I'm not as young as Dave is, but I'm close to being that young. But the point is, folks, every generation, it's our obligation to mentor the youth. Find somebody and mentor them. And when I say mentor, you have to have, as my first mentor told me, he'd give me all he had. And if I felt at any time he wasn't giving me enough, I could find another mentor. And there was never any ass hurt. I still know my first mentor. And, he's doing well. I mean, he had a stroke last week, but he's doing well. Awesome man. And, but there's no ass hurt if you leave. And if he ever felt there was a time that I needed to go find another mentor, he would say that to me. And I did that. I've had numerous mentors. Remember, I'm a bastard, Dave. I never knew my father. I know his name, and that's why I know I'm half Sicilian. But the point is, only good men can make other good men. And a good man, don't go by other people's definitions. As long as you're not doing anything illegal, immoral, or unethical, you're on the right path. That's what a man does.
Couldn't agree more. Couldn't agree more. That's why we have to try and leave our legacy for the younger people, and we have to do it with our words. And if we can do it in person, it's so much the better. And you've surpassed me in that you've had kids, and one of them's a Marine, and I'm praying to God right now for his safety and welfare, and that he be able to complete his missions with the skill of which he has been taught, and that he comes back home to you and your wife well and truly.
Yeah, well, I understand that, brother. And with that being said, folks, I'll let you close out your show after I close out mine, brother. Thank you for stopping by Kaiser's Castle. I'm glad you guys were able to sit on my big orange couch, sipping your coffee, tea, soda, or adult libation. And you've heard Dave. Dave's the man. And I really respect Dave Milner. And we may not agree on much, or on everything. Let me rephrase that. We agree more than we disagree. But we may not agree on everything. But you notice we have a civil, funny, light conversation. This is what conversation sounded like in the 80s. Where did we fuck up? Let's backtrace it. With that being said, I'll slowly lower or raise the drawbridge as you guys finish your coffee, tea, soda, or adult libation, and you exit. Dave, it's on you.
All right. Kaiser Shuff, thank you for having me on your program. It's been an honor and a privilege. You are an excellent podcaster, and I can't wait to speak to you again at some point. You're always welcome to call in to the English Defense League radio show if you'd like to do that. And I would like to say to my listeners, that is it for this time. I will be back with more UBG on EDL radio. And once in a while, yeah, I'm going to have Unpleasant Blind Guy episodes. Like I said, I'm not going away. But I do know one thing. I appreciate each and every one of you. Thank you for listening. And may your God go with you. Goodbye. The Unpleasant Blind Guy is copyright 2019. Anno Domini. Now for Dave's Canes. Extras that help you navigate the new media world.
Conservative media done right. You're listening to the SHR Media Network.
Hey, this is Michael Wright.
And I'm Shannon Wright.
Join us for The Right Way with Shannon and Mike, Monday through Thursday from 7 to 9 a.m. right here on SHR Media.
Why are they joining us?
For fun things like sports, politics.
Oh, maybe some news and entertainment?
And all kinds of other things.
Money and recipes and events, all kinds of stuff.
Yeah, so join us Monday through Thursday, 7 to 9 a.m. here on shrmedia.com.
From a public locker inside a dilapidated Long Island rail station comes a show designed to piss off liberals using truth, facts, and ridicule. The Lid Radio Show, featuring the conservative voice from the People's Republic of New York, the Lid himself, Jeff Dunitz. Tune in every Wednesday at 2 p.m. Eastern, 11 a.m. Pacific on the SHR Media Network. Go to shrmedia.com. At Lid Radio, we fight for the truth, justice, and a good kosher T-bone. If you don't listen, Hillary Clinton might sneak into your bedroom in her housecoat late at night and blame you for her election loss. It's the Lid Radio Show with Jeff Dunitz.
It's your business diva here, Melanie Collette. I am inviting you to a front row seat as I discuss some of the most intriguing details of wealth and finance with today's movers and shakers in the world of business. Listen in and discover financial truths on a global, domestic, and household scale. Uncover topics that will impact your wallet today and in the future. Money Talk with Melanie airs Monday through Friday, 5 p.m. East, 2 p.m. West, right here on SHR Media and High Plains Pundit Talk Radio. You can't afford to miss it.
The new show on the SHR Media Network, Sackheads Against Tyranny. On shrmedia.com. Go there quick like a bunny, 11 p.m. Eastern, 8 p.m. Pacific every Wednesday. Live and direct on the SHR Media Network. shrmedia.com. Be there.
Broadcasting behind enemy lines in occupied California, a mere 2 miles from the state capital, the bloviating Zeppelin's Berserk Bobcat Saloon Radio Show can be heard every Tuesday and Thursday night at 8 p.m. Pacific and 11 p.m. Eastern, only on the SHR Media Network. Go to shrmedia.com to listen. You can also watch on the SHR Media Facebook page and the SHR Media YouTube channel. No goldfish were abused in the making of this ad.
Hey girls, Carry Girl Gear is here. More and more women every day are concealed carrying, participating in competitive shooting, and getting firearms training. It's not a boys club anymore, and we don't have to shop in their stores anymore either. Finally, a cool and unique clothing line just for women. Dope tees and hats for the patriotic concealed carry and 2A girl. So what are you waiting for? Go check out carrygirlgear.com today.
Conservative media done right. You're listening to the SHR Media Network.